Hey everyone, welcome back to Strong Hands Reborn Dad. My name is Odie. So glad you can join me today. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes, even in the spring, sometimes it's just a little bit hard to stay motivated. The anxiety gets to us. Maybe we're busy with spring cleaning. Maybe we just are busy with work and the kids getting done with spring break. But if you're anything like me, something about spring, it's both good, but also causes a lot of anxiety. And we're going to talk about the different ways today that the Reborn dolls here can help us with our anxiety. And I'm going to give you specific steps and tricks to help you get the most out of your Reborn doll therapy. So here we go. All right. Well, it's no secret. The vast majority of Americans suffer from anxiety of some form, some sort of anxiety. And I think it crosses a line between normal anxiety that we deal with every day and a line where we need to seek professional help. With that said, if you are very much struggling with anxiety, depression, or any kinds of really severe negative thoughts, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to a professional counselor or anything like that. I believe that reborn dolls are good as a maintenance therapy tool and great to help us with anxiety, but sometimes I think there's a need for actual professional help, and I would strongly just recommend everybody to take a look at yourself, take a look at your situation, and is this the everyday, I'm just stressed out, it was a busy day, or is this a constant thing for you? I am not a medical professional. This is not medical advice. I'm just sharing my experiences here and what has helped me deal with my anxiety specifically. Okay, with all the disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. But before we do, I always make it a special point to introduce the reborn that I'm holding this week. Most of you guys know her. This is little Livy. She is an Ashton Drake baby, and she came from the little Livy sculpt. I just kept her name so you can find her. I believe she's just under $200. And then for those of you who are visually impaired, I'll go ahead and describe what she's wearing and what she looks like, as well as put a larger image of her up on the screen. Little Livy is wearing a beautiful springtime outfit. She is wearing a blue onesie that has little pink flowers on it with little stems. And she has matching, literally, I kid you not, they are matching with the same flowers on the side for her socks and a pretty well matched headband. Not quite, it wasn't like a pair or anything. But she is a partial silicone doll. However, the silicone that she is a very dense, hard silicone. I am not an expert, so I cannot tell you exactly what type of silicone that she is, but it's a very dense, it's not a very squishy silicone, and it's also has a lot of sheen to it. And it does attract hair quite easily. So just keep that in mind with this level of a silicone doll, that you're going to see the shine on her skin, and you're also going to feel that tackiness, and it's going to be very dense. But for a doll that is under $200, that's licensed and worry-free, I think it's a great value. I still love holding her. She's a great little doll to hold, and I think she's good for beginners. And so if you're interested, just go check her out on Ashton Drake, not sponsored. All right, let's get into the specifics here. And I think it's usually just helpful for me when I'm trying to help somebody else by sharing my story so you can see where I'm coming from on a lot of these tips. When I am at home and I'm not at work, one of the things that I typically do when, especially if no one's around, nothing's taking up my immediate attention, is I think a lot. My mind races a million miles a minute, something I've struggled with since I was a kid. And I think the challenge for me is something to kind of keep my hands busy, something to fill that space. And when I discovered Reborn Dolls, I felt like they really kind of did that physical connection, that touch, that tangibleness, that need to be doing something. And I absolutely love holding little Livy and all of my Reborn dolls because I can fidget with her. I love playing with her little toesies, just like I would my son when he was little. I like positioning them differently, the weight. It's something to do. I'm aware of it. It's cognizant. And I think there's something very grounding about that. And so my tip number one is just hold the babies. I know it's busy, but actually holding them, maybe even carrying them around, I think goes a long way into just giving your body something to do, something for your mind to cognitively think about, especially if you're elderly. I think the act of holding something like this, having to pay attention to something, could be mentally stimulating. Can't say it for a fact, but I would kind of venture to think that maybe something like that could be helpful. I know when I'm holding her, I'll hold her in different positions. Absolutely, get into the whole treating. Sorry for the microphone here, but get into the whole like positioning and all of that. So absolutely, I'll hold her like this. I'll let her dangle because I used to do this all the time with Junior as well. You can kind of pat their back, do the whole like thing, and it's really kind of calming because it's us caring for something else, even if it's not real. But it does kind of stimulate that part of your brain to care for something else, which can obviously help release some of that stress and anxiety. I think she's great for that. Now, a lot of you guys like to comment that if that were a real baby, you wouldn't be holding her right. You're right, but also real babies can help move their limbs too. Dolls are not movable. Well, unless you move them. Obviously, sometimes I may screw up on that, so I apologize. Okay, tip number two, role play. This isn't something I personally do, but actively role playing, just like the way I was just holding Livy, can absolutely help reduce anxiety because role playing puts us into that mindset of caring for a little one. And I think it's really helpful, even if you're pretend bottle feeding. And I know some of you guys might have, especially if you're new and you're not familiar with the Reborn doll community, you think, why would you role play with the doll? Isn't that something for children? I actually do think that there's benefit because children look at role playing in a very different way than we do as adults. As adults, we think about the real thing. We think about actually having a baby in our arms. Some of us have experienced it if you've ever had children, and it brings back that nostalgia feeling. It can be very grounding and relaxing. Whereas children just see it as play, a way to experiment, a way to, mimic and learn, right? So they're in that learning phase while they're mimicking. Whereas adults, when we role play and we're doing this, it has a different sense of emotion for us. So, I would definitely love to see role playing. I don't know. For me, it doesn't quite scratch that itch. I'm personally mostly just a holder. The furthest I kind of get is I do talk to the babies sometimes, or when I'm changing their outfits or whatever. But I'm not really into the whole bottle thing. I'm not into the whole like, oh, did you poop your diaper? Let's get you changed. That kind of thing. I don't really do that. I know many people do. There's whole YouTube channels dedicated to role play videos. So if that's, something that helps you, absolutely. I think another tip that I have for reducing anxiety is I promise you, is if you get on social media, especially Facebook, there's so many groups. You'll get, I'm not going to name specific groups, just I don't want any conflict there. But I'm a part of several online on Facebook. And I can assure you, if you join some of those groups, you will see endless photos after photos. And it might be inspiring to you to see what you might be able to do with your own reborn dolls. For me, at work and I'm on a break or whatever, I'll open up Facebook and scroll. And I think just seeing babies in general, frankly, in this case, is exciting, right? We think of how you feel when a friend of yours or a family member has a baby and they share the first photos. It's really exciting. And the fact that you can literally have feeds upon feeds of what people are doing with their reborns and they look so real through the photo lens. I think that actually is like a little quick little burst to help you with anxiety. I'm sure I'm missing several numerous other ways that the reborn dolls, specifically for anxiety, can be helpful. I will go ahead and touch on some of the other aspects for how reborn dolls can be mentally helpful. It's a little harder for me to relate to these or talk about them in great detail because they're not things that I've personally had to deal with. And I'm not quite ready to talk about a personal family situation right now that's playing into the dolls a little bit, but I'm still processing that and how I want to communicate it. But one of the ways I know that people get into the reborn doll hobby is because they maybe have lost a child And having a doll, especially one that they feel looks like the baby that they lost, can sometimes act as like a memorial. Sometimes holding the doll can help heal or help, certainly not fill a void entirely, but just give you something grounding. I know that there's several people that get into it for that. I think it's also good for people who can't have children. I've talked about this several times in my other videos, but there's plenty of men out there actually who would love to have a child who can't for various reasons. And I think that a reborn doll for them could be not a replacement, but just something so they can feel a little bit like they're having their own child, their own baby to care for. And I don't think that nurturing is mutually exclusive to women or females. I think men feel it to some degree. I've had many arguments with people regarding this idea of um, a man's role when it comes to nurturing young children. Obviously, if the baby is being, for example, breastfed or something like that's only something the mother can do, right? But all the other stuff, think about just getting up and being with the child, holding the baby, getting up at 1 a.m., doing all that. There's aspects of that I think that men naturally want to do because it's our contributing and we're supporting our wives or partners. And I think that need to want to care for something is not mutually exclusive. And I hear the argument, just get a dog or why don't you adopt? Adoption, I talked about it in my last video, the one regarding my faith. And so I will try to link it below. But there's also several reasons, especially if you yourself already struggle with mental health or anxiety. Adopting a child with their own things can be definitely a limiting factor for why adoption may not be a good fit, at least in the traditional sense. And so this is kind of a second place for that, I guess, if you will. It's not a replacement. I keep saying that, but I get so much hate on this that it's just a doll and all that. And it can't be a real child. And you're right, it can't. But again, it's a partial, not an entire thing. Okay, I think I've kind of covered most of the things here. I didn't want to make the video super long, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below about how you guys use reborn dolls to help you with anxiety or other mental health issues. Please feel free to leave them in the comments. We've gotten a lot bigger on social media, so please feel free to follow me on your favorite social media platform and let me know what that is. I would love to know. Primarily, we're on YouTube, TikTok, and now we're getting a bit more into Facebook. So just let me know if any of those are your favorites down below. Please like this video, subscribe. We are so close on YouTube to getting 1,000 subscribers. I would love to get just that milestone, and it's all because of you guys. Already on TikTok, we're well over 2,000 followers there. Love to see it increase. So thank you guys so much again. And again, until next time, strength looks different here on Strong Hands Reborn Dad.